This book is destroying me. I knew that she was tricking me. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. And if you are not new here and you have been subscribed to my channel, it has been a while since we last talked. The only thing I can say about that is, well, you know, life, but also I have been reading the only series to exist ever in the world, so that took me about a year to finish and get read. But in that time, I had many of books sitting on my shelf and I kept buying more. Now I have run out of space for books. I decided I was going to hold myself accountable and start reading my physical books on my shelf so that way I can buy more and fill it up all over again. This is not a new concept. I'm sure if you are familiar with the book community as a whole, that you know that a lot of people have these little TBR jars. This is my version of a TBR jar. It says Hot Girls Read. And I have every physical book on here that I own, except for if I have a series. I only wrote the first book or the next book in the series that I need to read, because obviously if I wrote every single book in the series that I own and I put it in here and I drew like the third book instead of the first book, that wouldn't really make much sense. Right now I'm trying to focus more on books that are not series. I actually have them color-coded, and that means that it is a series. And then I have other ones that have purple on them, which means that they are standalones. This is kind of my solution to trying or attempting to read more of my physical books, because I do not have a lot of space for books, unfortunately. I wish I had a huge room just dedicated to books, but unfortunately I do not. I'm really trying to hold myself accountable and start reading more of my physical books before I buy a lot more. I did start my reading journey in 2023 around that time, so there are some books on my shelf that have been there since the very beginning of my reading journey that I have just put off and didn't want to read because of some reason or another. So this is kind of my way of getting some of those books that I am not reaching for and picking up for pretty much no reason at all and don't want to give away. And this is just my version of holding myself accountable and picking up those books I don't want to read for whatever reason they may be and reading them. Yesterday I started this and I actually drew the Silent Patient. There was a multitude of reasons that I had not picked up the Silent Patient yet, and I believe it had been sitting on my shelf probably for 2 years. And I sat down and I finished it in one sitting, which it has been quite some time since I picked up a book and finished it in one sitting. I was also off, I had nothing to do, so I just sat there and read all day. So then I picked up the next paper. As I said, I'm really only going for standalones right now, so I'm more aiming for the little pieces of paper that have purple on the back, since I did just get finished reading the whole Throne of Glass series. I don't want to put myself into a slump, so I'm not going to force myself to read a series at the moment. I'm gonna read some standalones first, and then maybe I'll be willing to hop into a smaller series and start getting back into the Baker series again. I thought I would take you along with me in my journey on trying to reduce my physical TBR. So this is probably going to be part 1 in, I would say, never-ending series. The next paper I drew was A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. This book has been on my shelf since 2023. I feel like I should be happy that I drew this and I'm finally gonna get it off my shelf. Now, the reason I would say that I just haven't been leaning towards picking this one up is that it is, I believe, a YA mystery, young adult mystery, young adult thriller. I feel like usually when I read young adult thrillers or mysteries that they never really do it for me, besides Holly Jackson, who wrote the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. Whenever I pick up any of her books, I feel like they definitely teeter the line between young adult and adult, and I think that's why I tend to enjoy her thriller mysteries a lot more than normal young adult mystery thrillers. Now, this one also I've seen not great reviews on, but here's the thing about reviews. All those other people are not you, and they do not have the same opinion that you have on books. Even though a majority of people can say they don't like a book, you can still pick up a book that you might find interesting and really enjoy it regardless of what the majority opinion is. I need to learn to stop listening to the reviews and just pick up the books that I want to read, because there was a reason why I bought this book. I thought it was interesting, so I picked it up and I bought it. That means I should read it regardless of the opinions or reviews that I have heard from other people. I am about 53 pages in. I would say that's not too far in. It is going pretty slow so far. I'm hoping it'll pick up a little bit. This is a little lengthy for a thriller book. It's about 350 pages long. So that is a little bit more lengthy. I like my thrillers to be on like the 200 to 300 page length. So that is what I'm currently reading and what I pulled out of my little TBR jar. If you guys want to join me and join my journey on reducing my physical TBR, please keep watching and we will do this together. Come read with me. I knew that she was tricking me. I knew. As you all saw, I just finished A Flicker in the Dark. I have some thoughts. For now, I'm gonna grab my cup. I'm going to draw the next paper for my next read. I can finally cross this off my TBR after it has been sitting on my shelf since 2023. That feels pretty satisfying. I have my cup here and I'm gonna go ahead and draw out a piece of paper. Still at the moment only looking for standalones. I don't want to get into a series at the moment. It might take me a couple tries to pull out a standalone because I own a lot of series. All I see is blue in there. Is this purple? No, this one's blue. So I'm gonna put it to the side because it is not a standalone. I'm hoping to get not another thriller mystery because that would be like the third one that I'm reading in a row and I'm kind of not wanting to do that. So this one is purple and it looks really long. This is The Last Murder at the End of the World. I just bought that and I'm not wanting to read something that I just bought. I'm gonna put this one to the side also. You guys are gonna think I'm cheating, but also it's a thriller. I don't want to read that right now. Okay. Here's a purple one. Is this purple? Okay, let's see what this one is. I Fell in Love with Hope. That is the one I drew. That is the second paper I drew because I do not want to read another thriller at the moment, and I just bought The Last Murder at the End of the World like a month or so ago. I wanted to do something a little bit more that has been on my TBR for a long time. And I Fell in Love with Hope. I know I've had that for a while. I think I actually bought it around the time that I bought A Flicker in the Dark. So October 13th, 2023 is when I logged this on my Goodreads, which is the exact same date that I logged A Flicker in the Dark. This was trending on Book Talk for a while. I know I personally was getting TikToks from the author of this book promoting it, and I thought it sounded really good. I remember before I was actually getting reviews of this, I was seeing people who were reading it saying like it was a really sad, heartbreaking book. I know it's a romance book and it's like a journey between two people who are ill, I believe, in a hospital, and like just kind of following their journey of love together. This cover is really beautiful also. It's a really pretty cover. I'll probably start reading this soon. I'm actually a little excited. I just read 2 thrillers back to back and I need something to split that up for me a little bit. So I will be back with you guys. I don't even know today if I'll be back with you guys because I like to start recording when I think things are speeding up in the book, so that way if I do have any reactions I can catch them for you guys. I promise I will have some content reading this book. I will not leave you guys empty-handed. And then later in the video you guys can hear my thoughts on all the books that I've read so far in this video. I'll see you guys a little bit later. This book is destroying me. I'm on page 345 and there are 410 pages in this book and I'm scared. I want to finish it tonight, but at the same time I'm like, I don't want to finish it because I know it's gonna happen. Like, I just know. I know it's gonna happen. I mean, we all, look at the title, I Fell in Love with Hope. We all knew what was gonna happen. I'll be back. So I just finished I Fell in Love with Hope and my eyes still feel really, really heavy. But I'm here to draw another piece of paper. Okay, that's blue. It's like no purple in here, guys. These are both blue. Dude, they're all blue. You guys, every single thing I'm picking up is blue. You guys, I'm struggling here. Okay. After many failed attempts, I have drawn a purple piece of paper, an enchantment of ravens. Look at all these papers that are blue. And then there's this one purple one, but that's The Last Murder at the End of the World again, a read that I just recently bought. I believe this is a fantasy. Look at how pretty that cover is. I don't know much about this, to be completely honest with you. So this is gonna be my next read. And I will see you guys once I put a pretty big dent into this and I have some more opinions on it. I will see you all then. Hello everybody! As you saw, I just finished an Enchantment of Ravens, so now I'm back to tell you guys my final thoughts and reviews on all the books. I'm so excited to be crossing off 3 books from my physical TBR. So the first book we read in today's video was A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. This was not per se a bad book. I have said this in other videos before, but a 3-star rating to me personally is not a bad rating, and I just want to reiterate that again here. 3 stars to me is like middle of the ground, like the book wasn't anything crazy, but it also wasn't bad. It's just, you know, it's a middle ground kind of book. One thing I will say that I loved about this book was the setting. If you are someone who wants to read a thriller mystery in the summertime, I would recommend this book. It takes place in Louisiana during the summer, and I found myself thoroughly enjoying those parts of the book where the setting was described. You get glimpses from the past of our main character when she was younger, and the setting is in Louisiana in the hot summer in the late 90s, and she's like describing all of that, and I found it to be one of the most enjoyable parts of the book for some reason. I don't know, I just loved the description of Louisiana heat, and something about it like struck my own childhood memories of like me going to fairs and things like that in the summer and like smelling the popcorn and like everything like that. So I think that's why I really enjoyed that part, but overall the book was a little predictable, I will say. I still had a good time reading it. It wasn't anything, like I said, too revolutionary. It wasn't anything crazy. So that's why I ended up settling on a 3 stars for this book. And the next book we ended up reading was I Fell in Love with Hope by Lan Callie. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that in any way. Now, this book was the author's debut novel, and I thoroughly hope that what I read on the back of this book was true, and I hope that the author is working on another book, because I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. Yeah, this was a beautiful, beautiful book, beautifully written. I cannot believe this was the author's debut novel. This was so much more to me than a romance book, and I think that's why I really enjoyed it. I feel like this was more of a literary fiction with romance in it. And if you are someone who doesn't really enjoy romance very much, I still feel like you could enjoy this book. Now, I will say to look up trigger warnings before heading into this book, because there is a lot of triggering topics. If you are buying this book physically, the trigger warnings are in the beginning of the book. If you are not, I'm sure you can do a little bit of research on it and see whether or not the topics would be triggering for you in any sort of way. I loved this book. I thought it was amazing. It was so beautifully and poetically written. Sometimes I just was like, I was amazed by how these words were put on the paper. The author has a way of writing the characters in a way that feels so real and so complex. And when the characters are going through things, you're feeling them too. When the characters are making choices that you don't agree with, you are mad at them, you're upset at them, you're feeling emotion, and that I think is one of the most powerful things about reading a book. And I think that is something that goes greatly into my personal rating, is that words on paper can make me feel so emotional and so attached to, unfortunately, fictional characters, because these characters felt so real to me. I think that is such a powerful thing that an author can do, is when the characters feel so realistic. You feel like you could walk around one day and spot them in real life and be like, yeah, I know you, I know that person, I read about you, I read about what you experienced. And that was one of the many things that not only I loved but broke me when reading this book, because the characters do feel so real that when they're going through such harsh things that are so real, it was impossible not to sob like a baby when reading this. And if you've read this book, you probably understand. If you haven't read this book, once again, look up trigger warnings. But if you have been putting this book on the back burner for whatever reason, the same way I was, I would definitely read it. If you're looking for a good cry, this is the book for you, because... Now on to our final book, An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This book honestly was like a roller coaster. At no point did I know where this book was going, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. There was so many times where I thought the plot was going one way and then it just kind of diverged, and I was a little confused, not gonna lie. But I did end up giving this book a 3.5 stars. Now you may be wondering why I gave this book a 3.5 stars after I just told you that plot kind of diverted a lot. And it's because of the romance between the two characters. I loved the banter in this book. Regardless of sometimes the plot diverting, it was always thoroughly entertaining whenever it did. This fantasy, I would say, wasn't super high stakes. It was more of a cozy fantasy, and if you're just getting into fantasy, I think this book would be great. It is a standalone, and it's rather short. It's only 299 pages, so if you're looking to get into fantasy, I would recommend this book. It's a good read. The banter was great. I have zero complaints about the banter. I loved the banter between these two characters. I love them so much, and if I could get like a novella on them and where they're at, I would eat it up. I think I would eat it up, even if it was just like 40 pages just saying how they're doing, because I love them so very much. I loved all the characters in this book. I feel like they were really well written and really believable characters. It's just the fact that the original plot of the book ended so quickly, and then we were just continuing, and I feel like the author had so many like ideas in her head and just put it all into one book, which is understandable. I feel like, I don't know if this is her first book. I feel like when you have a ton of ideas in your head, it can be easy to defer a little bit from the plot. The main reason why this book was a 3.5 and not anything higher, but I did really enjoy the book, and I loved the banter. And if the banter was not as good in this book, it probably would be a lower rating. Overall, this was a super entertaining and fast-paced read that I would recommend to people just getting into fantasy, or if you're looking for more of a cozy fantasy that isn't super high stakes. More until the end. Thank you all so much for joining me in today's video, and I hope to be releasing a lot more content for you all soon. If you have any suggestions or video ideas or any comments, please leave them below. I read all of them, mostly because I don't get that many. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed today's video. It means a lot to me, and it shows me that you enjoyed the content. And thank you once again so much for joining me on today's video and reading along with me. If you did, I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or night wherever you are in the world. Bye.